This was, I always think it's got such a wonderful atmosphere. I love it.
It's a gorgeous house.
As you come in, you see this and look all the way along. A long time ago in finding that Monet, for instance.
On February 16th, 2026, the royal correspondent for the House of Windsor network dropped a revelation that immediately sent tremors through palace corridors and constitutional circles alike. King Charles III has quietly orchestrated what insiders are calling one of the most consequential realignments of his entire reign, officially confirmed by Buckingham Palace on the same day. The sprawling private estate of Forest Lodge, deep within the verdant expanse of Windsor Great Park, has now been formally transferred into the hands of the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, along with their children. While palace officials framed the move as a practical measure to support the Wales family's expanding royal responsibilities and desire for enhanced privacy, those who have watched the monarchy for decades see this as much more than logistics. It is a bold, symbolic and strategic recalibration of royal power, coming just weeks after Charles returned from a prolonged convalescence at Balmoral. The timing has all the subtlety of a royal drum roll. Though the crown has not changed heads, the gravitational pull of the monarchy has undeniably shifted. Forest Lodge's significance extends beyond its sprawling 40 acres of private woodland, historic stables, and meticulously maintained gardens. It sits in symbolic proximity to Adelaide Cottage and the children's school at Lamb Brook, embedding the Wales family at the very heart of Windsor's royal landscape. Historically, Forest Lodge has been one of the Crown's most discreet yet significant properties. Originally gifted to the Duke of Gloucester in the 1970s, the estate became synonymous with Queen Elizabeth II's inner circle, a quiet retreat for reflection, strategy, and private transition. But with the keys now handed over, the statement is loud and clear. Forest Lodge is no longer a hideaway for the old guard. It is now the operational headquarters for the monarchy's next generation. Palace aides confirmed that Charles explicitly intended for William and Catherine to repurpose the estate, not simply as a family home, but as a logistical hub for their growing portfolio of public engagements, charitable initiatives, and preparatory monarchical duties. Insiders close to Charles describe the handover as a deliberate forward-facing gesture that aligns perfectly with the king's long-term strategy to streamline the monarchy while maintaining continuity. Unlike Kensington Palace, burdened by ceremonial obligations, or Admiralty properties with their rural charm, Forest Lodge offers something rare: operational privacy intertwined with symbolic proximity to royal history. The estate's grounds, once walked by Princess Elizabeth and shaped in part by Prince Philip, are now poised to influence a third generation of monarchs, shaping not just their private lives but their public impact. But the move did not sit well with everyone behind the serene facade of the palace. Queen Camila was reportedly taken aback, perhaps even incensed, according to high-ranking palace sources speaking on condition of anonymity. Camilla had long envisioned Forest Lodge as part of her own sphere of influence, a potential hub for private charity work and intimate gatherings. One insider revealed that Camilla had dreamed of hosting literary circles, heritage garden showcases, and discreet diplomatic events on the estate. Her disappointment reportedly surfaced days before the official announcement, when her request to schedule a spring event at Forest Lodge was quietly declined. The message was crystal clear. This was a decision with finality, not malice. Adding fuel to the fire, Lord Gerald Marchman, a distant relative of the Queen Consort and a prominent aristocrat, broke decades of public neutrality at a private dinner hosted by the Royal Windsor Society. Marchman declared, "Forest Lodge is more than brick and timber. It is a quiet royal emblem, historically reserved for those closest to the sovereign. To transfer it mid-reign without ceremonial explanation casts shadows where there should be only lineage." While some dismissed Marchman's remarks as nostalgic exaggeration, others interpreted them as the voice of a broader unease among traditionalists, an anxiety that the monarchy's symbolic order is quietly shifting. After all, the crown is more than an institution. It is a theatre of symbols. To transfer Forest Lodge outside formal succession channels feels to some like a soft coronation for the next generation. Supporters, however, were quick to counter this narrative. Lady Eleanor Street, esteemed royal biographer and confidant of the late Queen Elizabeth II, wrote in a Times op-ed, "This is not a power grab. This is continuity in action. Forest Lodge under William and Catherine becomes a home of legacy, modern, family-centred and aligned with the quiet grace Her Majesty cherished." The timing adds an additional layer of resonance. February is not only the month of the Queen's final spring before her passing in 2022, but also coincides with Princess Catherine's symbolic return to public life after a courageous battle with cancer. Her glowing, composed, and deliberate appearance at a child welfare summit in Shrower last month was accompanied by her first overnight stay at Forest Lodge, a move palace aides confirmed was personally orchestrated by King Charles. The statement was unmistakable. The future is here, and it is firmly in capable hands. The Wales family's transition into Forest Lodge was quietly orchestrated. No press calls, no social media blitz, no fanfare, but the news exploded within hours across outlets like the BBC, Daily Mail, and major tabloids. Public reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Catherine's post-illness approval rating surged to a new high, while William's image as the dutiful heir and family patriarch gained fresh momentum. Whether interpreted as a subtle abdication or visionary succession management, Charles's decision has undeniably shifted the monarchy's centre of gravity. Meanwhile, the drama on another front unfolded weeks earlier. On February 2nd, 2026, the courtroom outside Santa Barbara Superior Court was jam-packed. A storm of camera flashes transformed the air into a dizzying white staccato. Meghan Markle's legal team entered clutching a red leather folder labelled Addendum, a lifestyle clause that would turn a private divorce into a global spectacle. The clerk read aloud demands that left the courtroom gasping: guaranteed 24/7 access to a chartered helicopter, a 90-metre yacht for personal and philanthropic voyages, and exclusive presidential suite accommodations during all international engagements. Whispers spread among journalists. Had she just tried to trademark her own lifestyle? The royal rebuttal followed, delivered not by Prince Harry, but by Princess Diana herself in a pre-recorded statement submitted under royal privilege. Her voice was calm, yet steel-edged. This family does not negotiate dignity for leather seats and champagne baths. Marriage is not a service contract, and children are not bargaining chips for preferential luggage tags. The courtroom erupted, some cheering, others stunned. Judge Deborah Lyndhurst quickly restored order, ruling Meghan's demands as non-GI and contrary to public interest, declaring marriage, especially involving internationally prominent parties, cannot be reduced to luxury contracts disguised as spousal expectations. As the headlines spread, the California court's dismissal of Meghan's extravagant demands was only the start of a wider storm. Dr. Jordan Peterson, speaking live from Toronto on a late-night CBC segment, dismantled Meghan's carefully curated victim narrative with surgical precision. Meghan claims she was trapped in a gilded cage, but let's be honest, she designed the cage, requested velvet walls, and charged admission. Peterson presented decrypted yacht manifests, matching outfits to paparazzi photos, and even staff emails where Meghan's assistant allegedly requested a specific orchid scent flown in by private jet for a dinner aboard the Al Sophia, a $270 million vessel registered in the Cayman Islands. The backlash was immediate. Feminist groups withdrew support. Influencer accounts that had once idolized Meghan began deleting posts, and hashtags shifted from hashtag Meghan deserved better to hashtag royally exposed. Through it all, Prince Harry remained silent, captured by paparazzi pacing the gardens of their Montecito home with a torn envelope in hand. Meanwhile, palace insiders confirmed that King Charles has formally tasked Prince Edward and Princess Anne with forming a 2-member committee to assess options for Archie and Lilibet's future. A leaked outline obtained by royal analyst Hugh Whitlock detailed guardianship considerations, security funding, reassessments, and even reintegration under sovereign tutelage. The divorce saga had escalated into a full-blown battle for the monarchy's image, and February 2nd, 2026, marked the moment the gloves came off. This was no ordinary legal proceeding. It was a royal counterstrike in a war of perception, a fight that the institution had been quietly losing for nearly 5 years. The next flashpoint loomed: Princess Anne's press conference on February 5th, which would either open the gates for Harry's reintegration or slam them shut forever. On the morning of the 2nd, the sleek glass facade of the Santa Barbara Superior Court gleamed in the California sun, reflecting the dramatic unraveling of a carefully curated royal illusion. Meghan Markle's legal team, led by high-powered Beverly Hills attorneys, stepped forward with what they called a previously undisclosed marital annex, a clause so extravagant it shocked even seasoned royal correspondents. Clause 14C, line 8, stated that continuation of marital obligations would hinge on 3 astonishing provisions. A. Guaranteed access to a private jet on 7 two-hour notice. B. Exclusive use of super yachts valued at $50 million or more. And C. Presidential-level accommodations across the globe. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Journalists whispered, had she just tried to trademark her own lifestyle? But the filing, meant to remain confidential, had been pulled into the open when Princess Anne, attending in her official royal capacity, requested full transparency under UK-US diplomatic norms. The judge consented, and with that, the veil was lifted on what one outlet immediately dubbed the brand deal marriage. Princess Anne rose gracefully, gloved hands clasped behind her back, and addressed the court in clipped, precise English. "Marital dignity, Your Honour," she said, "does not reside in clauses about helicopter service or yacht access. This is not a holiday package. It is a covenant, and it has been broken." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. Meghan, seated beside her legal team, reportedly showed no emotion, while her attorney objected, claiming the clause merely reflected celebrity-class expectations, not royal exploitation. But outside, the damage was done. Reporters scrambled, headlines flashed, and within 20 minutes, the world knew the story. Global media exploded with coverage. "The spa contract Meghan's royal marriage clause revealed," screamed one headline. "Princess Anne calls out yacht demands in divorce filing," read another. Social media went into overdrive, and the scandal, already dramatic, was about to escalate even further. At 10:42 p.m. Toronto time, psychologist and cultural commentator Dr. Jordan Peterson appeared on a national broadcast, delivering what many called the final intellectual strike. In a calm, deliberate voice, Peterson held up a dossier stamped with an international investigative watermark, allegedly compiled by former royal security operatives and forensic media teams. "We are looking at a figure who has spent years weaponizing victimhood," Peterson said. "But before the palace, before the titles, she was sailing on Gulf-linked yachts. She wore $12,000 dresses and built her name among billionaires, many of whom publicly opposed women's rights. She now condemns. This isn't oppression. This is curation. And now the curation is collapsing." Clipped reels of the interview went viral in less than an hour. Dramatic overlays paired with archive photos of Meghan aboard luxury yachts, many previously scrubbed from the internet, surfaced from anonymous leaks. Metadata confirmed the dates, while former staff anonymously testified to hospitality arrangements and payments, with names carefully redacted. By dawn, the hashtag brand before bride was trending worldwide. Prince Harry, insiders said, was blindsided. Allegedly, he had never seen Clause 14C before it went public. Sources close to the palace believe this was the moment he realised Meghan's legal strategy had shifted. It was no longer about partnership, but about preserving image at any cost. Buckingham Palace refused to comment on Peterson's revelations. Princess Anne's office, however, released a sharply worded statement. "The British royal family does not recognise material conditionality as grounds for marital legitimacy. Such terms are incompatible with our traditions of duty, sacrifice, and moral example." Within 24 hours, the Santa Barbara Superior Court dismissed the clause entirely, striking down all associated demands as excessively commercial. Meghan's team issued a muted press release, stating they were reassessing their strategy. Observers inside the palace read the move for what it was, a quiet surrender, but the damage had already been done. The fallout was immediate. Prince Edward reportedly described the filing as an insult to Queen Elizabeth's legacy. Queen Camilla, still reeling from her own recent scandals, remained silent. Only Princess Catherine offered a composed, measured response during a charity gala in Yorkshire. "Dignity," she said, "is not negotiated, it is lived." Her words, simple yet piercing, reinforced the idea that the monarchy would no longer tolerate transactional claims to privilege. By 10 a.m., the Royal Press Office had updated its archives, and insiders began using the word irreversible. What followed wasn't simply protocol, it was a tectonic shift in royal recognition. Under the authority of the sovereign grant, and with the Queen's Council present, a royal decree was published on behalf of King Charles III, codifying the disassociation of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. For the first time in modern British history, the monarchy formally declared a clean financial and symbolic break from a former senior royal couple. The decree detailed asset audits, title removals, and security cessations that stunned even seasoned royal reporters. No funds, privileges, or representative rights shall be extended under the Crown to Mr. Henry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor or Miss Rachel Meghan Markle from this day forward. King Charles's signature was accompanied by 3 additional marks of authority: Princess Anne as Lord High Steward, Prince William as acting sovereign, and Alistair Pembroke, Lord President of the Privy Council. Royal historian Dr. Evelyn Hargrave described the move as a peaceful exile enforced by institutional gravity, a decisive act of governance that left no room for ambiguity. Prince William's public endorsement carried unprecedented political weight, personally pushing for the revocation of representative rights to prevent any future brand, broadcast, or media claims associated with the Crown. Princess Catherine, in her only public comment that day while visiting a youth mental health centre in Nottingham, offered quiet clarity. "There's great peace in knowing who you are and who you're not meant to become." Her words were a poetic rebuke to Meghan's earlier claims that the palace had silenced her identity. One senior palace aide told The Times she wanted royal access without royal responsibility. But after Dubai, after the Archewell financial issues, after the Christmas card controversy, this family said, "We are not your backup plan." Indeed, the cumulative weight of scandals had reached a boiling point. Meghan's failed product lines exploiting royal branding, Harry's emotional appeals to Charles amidst mounting debts, and the embarrassing Christmas card controversy with child impersonators. Even previously sympathetic outlets like The Guardian and Vanity Fair began to adopt a skeptical tone. If this were a television show, one analyst said, Season 5 ended with the anti-heroes finally written out. But the consequences were far more serious than narrative drama. Though the royal decree made no direct mention of Archie or Lilibet, it included a subtle yet devastating clause. The Crown disclaims all fiduciary responsibility or representative alignment with individuals not residing under direct sovereign care or tutelage. Legal experts interpreted this as a preemptive severance of inheritance pathways, meaning Archie and Lilibet would be excluded from royal trusts and future sovereign disbursements unless formally reinstated by letters patent or act of succession. The revelation sent shockwaves across the Atlantic. Meghan's legal team issued a TSE unsigned statement asserting they were exploring constitutional pathways and international protections. "Our children shall not be erased," they claimed. But Princess Anne had already briefed the Privy Council with a blunt warning: the Crown owes no compensation for voluntarily abandoned claims. In an unexpected twist, Queen Camilla remained absent from all public statements or ceremonies surrounding the February 2nd announcement. Her silence sparked speculation. Was it quiet opposition to Charles's decisive measures, or a careful distancing amid growing public scrutiny of her own legacy? One royal watcher summed it up. This was not a family meeting. This was a coronation of consequences. At the centre of it all stood the future king, Prince William, with Princess Catherine by his side, not waiting for power, but actively shaping its limits. Even the serene expanse of Windsor Great Park could not mask the tension reverberating through the monarchy. By the 15th of February 2026, the royal inner circle was once again in turmoil. not because of a public scandal abroad, but because of a single, decisive act. King Charles III's bold move to transfer Forest Lodge to Prince William and Princess Catherine had sent unmistakable ripples throughout the monarchy, signalling in no uncertain terms that the future of the crown would be youthful, strategic, and no longer bound by outdated privilege. The message was clear. The monarchy was evolving, and the next generation was taking command. Sources close to Clarence House confirmed that Queen Camilla was informed only 2 hours before the official press release. Witnesses described her reaction as visibly shaken, unusually quiet, and her composure cracking just enough for her private secretary to request the postponement of 2 major upcoming public engagements. One palace insider admitted she did not anticipate this move, especially not so soon, while still reeling from subtle rebukes over Dubai connections. The timing was a calculated shock, and it worked. This transfer was far more than a simple handover of property. Forest Lodge, nestled near the sovereign's principal Windsor residence, had historically been reserved for confidential briefings, family retreats, and high-stakes negotiations. By placing it in the hands of William and Catherine, King Charles wasn't just giving away bricks and timber, he was passing the physical and symbolic keys to Britain's inner royal power circuit. It was a deliberate gesture, a statement of trust, and a signal that the Wales household was now the heartbeat of the monarchy. Observers noted Camilla's conspicuous absence from private councils, including senior staff meetings reviewing sovereign grant allocations. Some aides whispered that she began framing her exclusion as a campaign orchestrated by the so-called Windsor purists, a veiled nod to Princess Anne, Sophie, and increasingly, Catherine herself. Meanwhile, Princess Anne doubled down when asked about the lodge transfer during a veterans' gala. "What the public sees now," she said with characteristic bluntness, "is the result of discipline. No monarch survives on sentiment." Even the usually reserved Prince Edward was quietly reported to have extended tacit support to William, underscoring the shift in internal allegiances. The symbolic impact extended even further. Just days after the announcement, Prince George and Princess Charlotte visited Forest Lodge with their parents. A photograph of Charlotte leafing through an old leather-bound volume, part of Queen Victoria's private collection, circulated online with the caption, "The future has arrived." Royal watchers noted the young princess's poise, curiosity, and quiet authority radiating from her every gesture, while Catherine maintained her usual air of composed elegance, a subtle yet unmistakable display of the next generation's emerging influence. Even the choice of jewellery amplified the statement. Catherine wore Princess Diana's aquamarine ring, dubbed the aspiration stone by fashion historians, during their first official appearance at Forest Lodge. Social media exploded, with thousands of tweets hailing it as a powerful tribute to legacy and reform. One viral post declared, "Camilla may have the crown, but Catherine now wears the monarchy's soul." Palace insiders claim that Camilla, privately, requested a separate residence in Gloucestershire to reflect and write, a classic royal manoeuvre, strategic withdrawal disguised as creative solitude. But this time, the stakes were unprecedented. The ground beneath the monarchy was shifting, and the once unmovable queen consort now found herself increasingly without allies, without territory, and without a clear narrative. The question everyone asked, not whether the monarchy would change, but how quickly Camilla would vanish from its centre, and who would turn the final page of her chapter. Before dawn broke, Princess Anne convened a historic roundtable at Clarence House. The air was still but charged, like the moment just before a storm breaks. Around the polished oak table sat the monarch's most trusted advisers: Lord Alistair Pembroke, Duchess Sophie, Lady Louise Windsor, and Sir Reginald Haworth of the Royal Audit Office. A single folder sat before them, stamped in bright red, Archwell Final Termination. "We will not leave this cancer untreated," Anne said firmly. "Let's begin by noon." The Royal Press Office issued an unprecedented communiqué. All rights, privileges and associations between the Crown and the RQL Foundation were immediately dissolved. No member, former or otherwise, was authorised to act, speak, or imply affiliation with the sovereign or its representatives. Monarchical titles, motifs, financial endorsements, and diplomatic leverage were rescinded instantly. The blow landed hard on Meghan Markle. Websites were archived, contracts frozen, and her long-anticipated February 20th media gala, meant to relaunch her brand, was abruptly cancelled for reputational risk. In a leaked emergency Zoom call, Meghan screamed at her PR strategist. "I built an empire. They can't erase me." Her strategist paused, then replied evenly, "They just did." Meanwhile, Prince Harry reportedly remained silent at their Montecito residence. He refused Meghan's demands to release an emergency counterstatement targeting Princess Anne, instead drafting a 6-page private letter to King Charles. Its contents remain unknown, but the royal family's silence spoke volumes. Public opinion shifted dramatically. Social media exploded with hashtags like #IronHeart, #CatherineRises, and #ArchwellCollapse dominating global feeds. Catherine herself appeared at an impromptu youth fundraiser at St. George's Chapel. When a nervous young girl asked, "Are the royals still happy, even when people lie about them?" Catherine smiled warmly. "Happiness comes when you serve the truth, not just yourself. The truth always finds its way." Clips of her response went viral, hailed as a masterclass in graceful and decisive leadership. Meghan, reportedly furious, even threw a glass at her phone. Back at Clarence House, Princess Anne tasked Sophie with activating Operation Palatine, a sweeping cultural initiative to reclaim the social justice space Archwell had attempted to dominate. Lady Louise oversaw digital partnerships, while Sophie vetted each board member personally. The Crown had firmly reclaimed control of its narrative. The final blow came on February 29th, Leap Day. King Charles signed a decree permanently stripping Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of all remaining honorary associations, including charitable patronages. No resources, ceremonial, legal, or financial, would be extended to them. The decree was clinical, constitutional, and absolute. Outside Kensington Palace that evening, crowds gathered not to protest but to cheer. For the first time in months, the Union Jack flew unstained. Inside the nursery, Princess Charlotte asked Catherine, "What does a raised flag mean?" Catherine's reply was soft but firm. "It means some stories end without a crown." And with that, a new era quietly solidified, an era of accountability, legacy, and the unmistakable rise of the Wales household as the core of the monarchy. The future was here, and it was in capable hands. If you want to stay updated on how the royal story continues to unfold, make sure to follow along, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for the latest inside look at the Crown's evolving legacy.